If I was to tell you that Georgia goes 2-1 in those 3 games, which game do you think they drop?
They got to beat Bama. For everything you talked about Kirby and being successful, he's 1-6 against Alabama. On that second floor in that building, down to the 85th man on that roster, they understand they've got to find a way to win that game. They've got to win that game, in my opinion.
What is up, everybody? Thank you guys for joining us and making Crain and Company a daily watch or listen. We really, really appreciate you guys. As usual, hit that like and subscribe button. Got a fantastic show for you today as we are barreling towards football season. Some people say, oh, well, you know, it's still far away. It's never far away when you love it like we love it, including former Michigan quarterback David Cohn to my left. And our special guest for today, a true connoisseur of the game, a true friend of the show, ingrained in the DNA of everything we stand for. On DawsHQ, On3, I think he's like the co-president of the Georgia High School Hall of Fame. The man does everything. Our guy, and a great family man as well, Rusty Mansell. Rusty, what's up, buddy?
Rusty?
What's up, guys? I was telling y'all off the air. I was like, damn, I pissed off. I say something about Statesboro. Y'all ain't had me on in a while. I was like, man, what's going on here?
I know about it.
Look, forget State. You can say whatever you want about Statesboro. It's been too long since we had your brother, but we're really glad to have you here. And look, I want for our audience, obviously we have a lot of Georgia fans that watch the show, a lot of college football fans in general that want to know what this Georgia team we think they're going to look like as compared to the years past. And before we get into the offensive and defensive and the special teams part of it, just from a 30,000-foot view, Rusty, I mean, we've seen the teams that Kirby Smart has had. The consistency has been incredible. We know the level of athlete that Georgia continues to bring in year over year. And really outside of the off-the-field stuff, you know, I don't want to get too far into that. It's been really smooth sailing for Kirby. But, you know, Rusty, when you look at this team, and the level of talent, depth, experience, and ability, where do you have them right now? What does this team look like to you?
Boy, it's such a different world, and I've had to reprogram myself. I've had to reprogram everybody that kind of follows me in Georgia football. I think you guys probably have some of this message. You know, I'm reading all these college football magazines, and, you know, everybody's talking about it's a top 10, it's a top 5, you know, this and that. Look, guys, I think the most important thing is who's going to be most healthy in December? Who can have a 3 or 4 game straight? Is this the most talented Georgia roster under Kirby Smart? No, it's not. Can this team win a national championship? Yes, they can. I mean, they need some things to go their way. They need to be healthy in December. I truly, without starting another hour show, I'm not really sure you're going to see super teams anymore, what I consider a super team. Look at Ohio State last year, I think super team. You look at Georgia 22, I think super team. You look at Alabama 20, super team. You look at LSU 2019, super team. I think those days are over. To me, it's going to be your top about 40. And I think one thing, guys, that we don't talk enough on is I'm telling you right now that coaching's about to matter more than it's ever had, because you're not going to out Jimmy and Joe guys as much as you have in the past. And those fourth quarter decisions, those third quarter halftime adjustments, those type of things, it's going to be very important for everybody around the country.
No, and I think that's great. I think that's fantastic. I don't want a super team. I want high level of play.
Amen.
I want quality ball. But, you know, I don't want to know the end of the book right when I start reading it. And I think that's been one of the positive things that we've seen come out of these changes. There's a bunch of negatives that I think you agree with us on. But, you know, you mentioned something, Rusty, and I've said it a million times on here. Cohn said it too. You know, a lot of people assume, oh, it's your starting 22. That's what's going to dictate. That's not how it works in this sport, or really in any sport. It's really, to your point, your first 44 versus their 44, and it may be a little bit higher. So when we say there's not going to be this super team or this you know, upper echelon team when compared to everybody else, then depth has kind of taken the place of the super talented starters. How deep is this Georgia team to be able to withstand the inevitable injuries that you're going to get on the line of scrimmage and outside? How deep is this Georgia team, do you think? I
mean, I would put Georgia's 85-man roster up against anybody. Now, I can tell you that if you want to, you know, what Kirby said last week, there's no crying from the yacht. This is kind of crying from the yacht. They got a lot of kids that's never played, and those kids are going to have to play like right now. And they got a lot of guys that's going to have to start for them. And now they got a lot of experience coming by that played plays, but they don't have guys that are 3-year starters anymore. You don't have a Tate Ratledge that you know is a 3-year starter, and you have a Michael Williams who you got a Malachi Starks who has 43 games under him in the back end that you can count on. So there's highly recruited players. That's something I would say that Georgia's roster is still as good as anybody's. But man, this is a really young team, and again, guys, I think this is the norm. This is what's going to happen with the portal system the way it is, and no matter how big that window is, you're going to have to play kids that you feel like probably aren't ready. They're talented, but you're going to have to learn to live with their mistakes. And I think that's one thing that Kirby Smart is going to have to kind of learn on the fly with, to adjust to, because typically at Georgia, they will play a kid they feel is going to be in the right spot that may not have the ceiling as the guy behind him until he's quote unquote ready. I think they're going to play some kids early and let them, kind of learn growing up on the field. OJT kind of saying.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Cone, the first 2 games of the season, I don't want to disrespect Marshall or Austin Peay, but you can kind of get your feet wet a little bit before you go to Tennessee.
Yeah, and I do want to get into the meat of this schedule, but first, since you're talking about new guys playing, let's talk about the quarterback position. Carson Beck played a lot of good football at Georgia. He also struggled in some big moments. Well, guess what? He's not the quarterback there anymore. He's going to be the starting quarterback for the Miami Hurricanes. Gunnar Stockton's going to step in, the pride of Rabun County. And look, he got some game action in critical moments, filling in for Carson Beck in the college football playoff, and I thought he played quite well against Notre Dame. What's your expectation? Are the Georgia Bulldogs better off at quarterback this upcoming season with Gunnar Stockton than they were with Carson Beck?
I don't know that they're better off going into the season. Carson Beck was considered the number 1 pick, maybe. He was the Heisman front runner. At this point last year, they're talking about launching a Heisman campaign behind the scenes on him, and it never got to that point. So Gunnar Stockton's a kid that has a lot of potential. He's got to do it on the field. You look at him, and he's who you think he is. He checks all the boxes. I've known him since his 8th grade. This is the one thing I'll tell you is don't let the aw shucks kind of personality you see from him. He's got some MFer in him. I'll never forget being at a 7-on-7 one summer, and I stood behind him, and I heard kind of some stuff come out of his mouth. I was like, wait a minute. Okay, this guy's cut a little different right now. Then you want to be able to turn that switch. And, I heard Tate Ratledge interviewed and said he came in the second half against Texas and didn't really say anything. And then, I think the third play, he scrambles and he runs over a kid on the sideline. He gets up and says some words. Now, that's why that locker room is behind him, because they know who he is. But he's still got to do it on the field. He brings a different element to the game. Obviously, he wants to hurt you with his legs. I think at times Gunner's going to have to learn not to take a hit. Now, I know a little bit more about him. I've watched him for a while. Even go back to that Florida State blowout a couple of years ago. He took a hit late in that game. He's going to have to learn to get down. He got KO'd in Texas. He got up. Carson Beck had to come in there with a torn arm off, basically handed off.
Yeah.
We don't know if they would have stopped him there. I'm like, what would have happened in that situation? Like Ron Puglisi would have maybe had to go in at that point. So there's a lot of things there, but I think Gunner's that guy. I think he's got the potential. He's definitely going to have a locker room behind him. But man, he's going to have a lot of experience. Like when you start talking about Marshall and Austin Peay, okay. If you start talking about going to Knoxville at 3:30, and I don't care who's playing quarterback for Tennessee. I'm telling you, who's playing quarterback for Georgia, he hasn't been in that experience yet as the guy.
Yeah. Well, I remember it wasn't that long ago that Georgia brought in a marquee quarterback in J.T. Daniels from Southern California, and that was supposed to be the guy to lead Georgia to a national championship. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, it's Stetson Bennett, who goes back-to-back.
Jones County Community College, baby. Get it. Stand up. Stand up.
So I've seen it done in Athens with this type of guy before. Let's talk a little bit about this schedule. I want to start with the home games. Look, Georgia's schedule last year, we were talking about how brutal it is. And look, it's still going to be very competitive, but at least some of those marquee games, you get them at home this year rather than on the road. So let's just talk about a couple of the home games. Alabama in Sanford Stadium. You're going to get Ole Miss in Sanford Stadium. You're going to get Texas in Sanford Stadium. If I was to tell you that Georgia goes 2-1 in those 3 games, which game do you think they drop?
They got to beat Bama. I mean, that game, that for everything you talked about Kirby and being successful, he's 1-6 against Alabama. Like they cannot lose. Everybody wants to talk about the hype of Texas and all that kind of stuff. If you tell me Georgia's going 2-1, it would have to be the Texas loss then. They have got to beat Alabama. I think there's nobody will say it in that building, but from the top man on that second floor in that building down to the 85th man on that roster, they understand they've got to find a way to win that game. That kind of hangs over that program. That hangs over every time you talk about Georgia, you go, hey, they won these multinational, but this Alabama series, to me, that's a game they have got to start finding a way to win. They've got to win that game, in my opinion.
Summer's here. More sun, longer days, more time outside. We all love it. We're all about being out there from morning to night. But you need earbuds that can keep up, whether it's music, this amazing podcast, or calls. You want crystal clear sound that lasts all day. That's where Raycon's Everyday Earbuds come in. They're the perfect sidekick for summer. Now, Raycon's Everyday Earbuds are seriously perfect for summer, whether you're crushing a workout, taking work calls outside in the sun, or just vibing to some music while you're grilling the good old-fashioned way. Now, the sound quality is premium, and they go wherever you go. The latest model, it's incredible. 32 hours of battery life, and you can connect to 2 devices at the same time. And if you're running low on juice, just 10 minutes of charging gets you 90 minutes of playtime, David.
Can't beat that.
They've even got active noise cancellation, which is pretty rare to find at this price point. Speaking of price, Raycon starts at half. That's right, half of what you'd pay for other premium brands. Now, I use Raycon all the time running. Don't have to worry about the wires getting knocked out. The sound quality's great. They have a bunch of different colors. It's a great Father's Day gift, too. Any type of holiday, birthday, whatever. It's an easy, fantastic gift at a great price. So go to buyraycon.com/booster to get 15% off Raycon's best-selling everyday earbuds. And right now, Raycon is even offering 15% off the best-selling everyday earbuds only at buyraycon.com/booster. That's BUYRAYCON.com/booster. Raycon. Have you heard about it?
You want to hit some of these away games here?
Yeah, I do. I want to just circle back for 1 second because Rusty, you talking about Gunner, and I'm glad, obviously Cone brought that up. You got to bring up the quarterback in a preview, but his gameplay and the way that he plays, correct me if I'm wrong here. I see a lot of Stetson Bennett kind of stylistically, except Stetson, I think, was a little quicker. Gunner's a little bit of a heavier runner, but as a thrower of the ball, on the move as well. How high is his ceiling, rolling right and rolling left, which he's inevitably going to have to do? And I wonder if Mike Bobo is going to run a decent amount of sprint out this year or not. But his throwing ability so far, where do you see it? Is it top notch? Can it be top shelf, or will he just always be a good thrower of the ball that's a tough ass country boy, like a souped up Mike Winchell?
He's got a great arm, man. I'm telling you, this kid is live as hell. Two things I got questions. So just be straight honest here. 2 things I see that they're going to have to be answered this year for Georgia to be successful with Gunner. He's a little bit taller than Stetson. And I always was enamored, like, how in the hell is Stetson not getting balls batted? Like, he didn't get balls batted down.
Yeah.
A few of the things you see with Gunner, and it happened in the spring game, I think he had 3 balls batted at the line of scrimmage in the spring game. And you in between tackles and those mesh routes and those types of things where you're throwing through a guard's head, you know what I mean? Like, I wonder at times, is he having issues seeing it? And then I wonder if people are just sitting back on him, going to get your hands up, because that's something that he's going to, because I'm going to tell you something, guys, y'all played football. You start tipping balls twice a game and very bad things will happen.
Catastrophic things happen.
That is awful things happen. And it kills you too when you get like a play design you like and that freaking defensive, when you call that damn perfect screen and everybody's wiped down that one side and that defensive end gets its hand up and bats the ball down. But on film, you look and go, there wasn't nobody within 60 yards.
Yeah.
You can't miss those plays. The second thing I will tell you is Stetson Bennett was as clutch as anybody's ever seen in the fourth quarter. You can go back to the Alabama game in Indy. You can go back to the Ohio State game, the drives he had. Like, you don't answer those questions until you've been in that moment. When you know you're down 14 in the fourth quarter and you got to score every possession, Stetson Bennett was freaking money. He was accurate. I have no issues with Gunner's game. I have no issues with his arm strength. I have no issues with his ability to get outside the pocket and extend plays. I have no worries about him reading a defense. The 2 things I think he's going to have to answer is tip balls and where's he going to be in the fourth quarter when the game's on the line. And you will not know until he goes through that.
Yeah. Well, to the schedule, to Cone's point, these away games, what's funny when I look at it is, you sit here and you're like, all right, at Tennessee, first, big moment, I guess you could say, of the year. I know Gunner's been through a couple here at the end of last year. Yeah, Tennessee's we'll see at quarterback. We don't know. They're going to play their ass off. We know that.
Yeah.
You go to Auburn. I want to believe, Rusty. I want to believe Auburn's turning the corner. But I'm a trust but verify right now on Auburn. I got to see it on the field, right? And I'm a little worried about the defensive depth for Auburn right now. So then I look and I say, all right, you're at Mississippi State. And I look at these road games, and would I be? I'm not going to talk about Florida because that's, neutral in Jacksonville. But am I crazy to say that I'm looking at that game at Georgia Tech at the end of the year as could possibly be a top 2 road game of the season for Georgia?
Well, I'll go back to the Auburn. I've been down there way too many times, and that place is unhinged. They have announced the game time on that, and I know Kirby Smart praying to God they don't go that game. That game ain't no 7:45 kickoff.
Oh no! But for Auburn, Rusty, we'll never get that. If it was Bama, they'd let them play at 9 p.m. at night. For Auburn, we'll play at 9:45 in the morning. We'll be on Peacock or something at 9:45 in the morning.
I tell you what was the old noon game? Jefferson Pilot. I know Kirby Smart probably hoping for that noon
with Dave, and Dave.
Yes, Dave. Yes, that's exactly right. And but Auburn to me is going to be tough. The Georgia Tech dynamic's interesting. If you remember this, that game's at Mercedes-Benz this year.
Yeah, that's right.
So that was like a $10 million deal for Georgia Tech, and that obviously Georgia fans are going to flood that building. So I don't know what the ratio is going to be, but I promise you right now, it's not going to be a true home game for Georgia Tech. On the field, Georgia Tech has given them absolute fits. And came within 1 foot of beating them last year, probably had a really good chance. So that is going to be a hell of a game regardless. They did that in Athens. I think you look at road games, to me, I'm a big believer in Jackson Arnold. I'm telling you right now, I've said it on 2 different things. I am a
Talk to me, Rusty.
I'm a big freaking guys that I know that I've trusted in the past. They loved that guy in high school. They freaking loved that guy in high school. That dude, if Georgia wasn't so deep into Dylan Raiola at the time, that was a guy they were working. I mean, that was a guy they would have loved to have. It was too late at that point, But this is a guy that I'm telling you, if you're an Auburn fan, I'd be excited because I think Jackson Arnold can throw the ball. Whatever how way Hugh Freeze thinks to do it, this guy can deliver it. I think he can see it. He's not a statue. So if you want to talk about true road games, for me, I'm Georgia. Obviously, that Tennessee game's a little different without Nico. But that Auburn game, you better strap that ass up because that place is going to be unhinged.
God, from your lips to God's ears, Rusty.
Well, so talk to me about going to Neyland with Nico transferring out. How you feel about that one?
Well, it's interesting. That's going to be that series is gone Georgia's way, and that fan base is there. I got some of my good buddies at On3 and at headquarters in Nashville, and we bring up that Georgia game. You can just see it in their face. I lived through that in the 90s. Tennessee freaking owned Georgia.
Yeah.
And I sit there at Neyland Stadium when Robert Edwards runs loose for a half. I was like, dude, I don't care Peyton Manning, who they got. They can't stop Robert Edwards. He goes to the sideline, breaks his foot. Next thing you know, it's Big Orange time, So I've been through that side of the series, so I understand what they're feeling. They want that game as bad. That place will be crazy. It's a different game. So, who's going to be the quarterback? He's going to face Georgia. He's going to face a defense, so that's probably their first biggest game too, like that. So that's an interesting game. It's definitely a different dynamic without Nico there. I don't care who you say. Now, Tennessee might be a totally different team, but if I'm Georgia, I definitely want to play them early with a new quarterback.
For sure, without a doubt. And you get that bye week in between Tennessee and Bama, which is big. The last one I got for you, Rusty, I want to play a little pick 'em on each side of the ball here. I'm going to give you side of the ball. I want you to tell me one position group you feel really good about, one position group you're a little bit, I wouldn't say nervous, but they've got to show it to you. Starting on defense, give me one position group that you feel really, really good about, and give me one that you've got to see him really come on a little bit.
I'll tell you what, it's our linebacker, Georgia. I mean, Glenn Schumann is, I know he works his ass off, but he's got to be smiling. Look at C.J. Allen. Look at Raylan Wilson. Dude, I'm telling you right now, Chris Cole might be Georgia's best NFL prospect. This guy's super. This guy, look at those 2 Texas games. You seen your highlights from that Texas tight end? No. You know why? Because they put a freshman on him at 6'4", and he locked his ass down. This guy's Quay Walker, I'm telling you. You got Justin Williams, a kid out of Texas who's a 5-star. He's really good. They got 4 backers that could start for anybody in America. I really believe that. And they're going to work those guys. They've been playing 4 of them. a lot of experience in there. So if you look at that side, I really, you really kind of like that room. Now, safety, you lose Malachi Starks. They brought in 3 portal guys. KJ Bolden is as good as everybody thought he was. He's a freshman All-American. Yep. He's putting on weight. Sure. The one thing I would kind of real sure about KJ Bolden, this guy was super fast. This guy loved football, but would he stick his face up in there?
Yeah.
And when I saw KJ Bolden, he would come up the alley and fill the hole. Like, he's that dude, but you got to have some other guys in there.
But like Rusty, that's that Georgia culture does that to you, man. I swear. Like, I swear, you could take a Charmin Ultra rep and put him on Georgia's defense, and that's someone going to be biting through metal lockers at halftime. Like, that's just what Kirby's built, I think.
Or you're not going to be there. You know what I mean? There's guys. It's not a fit. Like, I say it right now, Justice Fitzpatrick, the kid out of South Florida, Minka's brother committed there last night. This guy's wired the exact same way. Like, this could have been World War III, NIL, all that. He came this weekend. Minka came up twice with him in the spring, sitting in that film room, and everything that he believed Kirby Smart still is, and his brother committed last night. He's wired like that. So it's not for everybody. It's not for everybody, and some places for kids to go. But if you're going to play defense at Georgia, you're not going to be soft. I can assure you that. Yeah. NFL is speaking for that with their draft picks.
Hell, just look at the Eagles. All right, on the offensive side, Rusty, one position group you feel good about, the other. I know we've talked a lot of quarterback. You can say that, obviously, but if there's another one you're interested in, I'd love to hear it.
I think the transfer portal has done well for wide receivers. I think Georgia, they went out and spent, man, and they went out and got Noah Thomas, a 6'6" kid out of Texas A&M. Getting Kobe Young back with his issues getting solved, and he's back. I don't think people got enough of him, but everybody in that building was super excited when he got at the 6'5". Go get Zachariah Branch out of USC.
Yeah.
This is a kid that's, this is that dude that gives you absolute hell on the slot, and he's a kick returner, punt returner.
Reminds me of Waddle. He reminds me of Waddle.
He's got some juice like that. He's got some juice. Then they've hit on these freshman wide receivers. You got C.J. Wiley. He was a kid out of Milton, big-time prospect. And they got Talon Taylor, who was a 5-star wide receiver out of Illinois. They held off Ole Miss at the very last minute. This is the first 5-star wide receiver they signed since George Pickens, who, by the way, was pretty damn good. So, yeah. I think the wide receiver room, I think Georgia, for whatever reason, they tried to plug and play last year. It didn't work. They brought in some guys that can out-athlete people. Sometimes you get enamored with a 40. Sometimes you get enamored with this. You get enamored with that. Can your freaking wide receiver go out and make a damn play when that DB is holding all over it? I'll never forget, man, when Georgia played Bama and Alabama in 2020 at Tuscaloosa. Eric Stokes, who was one of the best DBs, I think, most underrated. He was a first-round draft pick. Got hurt last year. He's going to be really good, I think, in the NFL. He is all over Waddle in the back of the end zone. And Mac Jones throws the ball, and there's about this much room for that ball. And he reached right over Stokes and caught that thing in the back of the end zone. I remember going, you can't play that anymore. You know what? No. He got out-athleted.
Yeah.
And that's the battles you have to win, those 50-50 balls. And I think Georgia brought in some guys that can out-athlete you and out-link you with those 2 6'5" and 6'6" guys.
Well, that's scary.
Rusty, 2 more things here. High-level view of the sport. The Big Ten has crowned back-to-back champs here, and I personally found some of the messaging from the spring meetings with the SEC to be somewhat soft, especially with the conversations about an 8-game schedule versus a 9-game schedule, and Alabama's coach talking about what would other teams have done if they played our schedule. That's just my personal opinion. I just want to know from you, what are your thoughts on that, and has this NIL and the transfer portal era these last few years, has that really, tipped the balance a little bit? Is there any sort of panic within the conference? Are we going to get back to business as usual in 2025?
I don't think they're going to get back to business. I think every year there's going to be a lot of teams that have opportunities, and that's good for college football. You know what I mean? I'm an SEC guy. That's going to be good for college football. A couple of things I'll give you from both sides of the angle. The SEC at some point, they're going to have to go to 9 games. I don't care who's in there griping. I don't care who's complaining. I don't care what Sankey says. At some point, you're going to 9 games. Now, on the SEC side of it, I don't give a damn who you are. You add a 9th game, and no other conference in America is adding a 9th game when you start talking about, hey, we're going to go to Georgia, or we're going to go to Auburn at night, or we're going to go to A&M at night, or we're going to play LSU on that extra week, or we're going to go to the Swamp and play. And I don't care who you are. That's a physical football game in the SEC, and it takes a toll. But listen, it's big boy ball, and nobody gives a damn, and nobody's going to Ain't no crying from the yacht. I love that
Yeah.
quote from Kirby. I would love to know who told him that.
Yeah. Well, we always say nobody cries on a jet ski.
Yeah. Or me, old broken down pontoon.
Hey,
But,
look, I love a good party pontoon now. I'll take
dude,
that over a jet ski. Get on Lake Martin.
Hey, I got a buddy
pass
of
them around.
mine. I got a buddy of mine. We call it the smoker craft.
Yeah.
Hey, this thing's got old 50 Evan root. It's probably dumping 4 gallons of oil. Let me tell you something. It gets us to the other side of the lake. And
That's exactly right. Just get us to Chuck's and we'll figure it out.
We're good, brother. We're good, man. But
good.
you know, I think that the NIL is. I could tell you a million stories about NIL. I've gone to kids' houses. I'm not getting their business to do interviews, and the freaking floor creaked.
Yeah.
And they didn't have cable TV, and this kid was all American. You know what I mean? So don't tell me these kids don't earn some money. I just think we got to have some rules, man. We got to have some regulation. Sure. Just give me some rules. Give everybody a salary cap. Let them pay. If they want to pay a tight end, and if they want to pay Mark Bowman $10 million, my God, pay him $10 million. But you have a pot that you're pulling from. You have a pot, and you make that decision. Okay, whatever amount of money it is. But I think that's kind of the thing I'm good with. But the biggest thing too, man, is the spring ball. I talk to a million coaches from different places. I can't tell 90% of the coaches I talk to, they don't want that spring window. And I don't think the kids want it. I think the kids want, I don't know why we can't just do it 10, 12 days. Just get in. Then you've got time to take your visit. Just declare, I'm going to get in. And then that school knows I need to replace this guy. What Nico did and that whole deal, it was everything that was wrong. And the timing. To me, old school dude, if my boys can't get in touch with you on a Friday, I can't get in touch with my teammate on a Friday before the spring game. That's freaking wrong, man.
It is. Yeah, especially playing quarterback.
Last thing here, since you're as knowledgeable in the state as anyone in the business, man, what's going on in Statesboro? How are we looking down there?
Well, it's always going to be hard-nosed kids. I tell you what's gotten better, and I've watched kind of the transition, is that southeast area over there from Statesboro. I'll tell you something, Effingham County, my guy John Ford down there, I went and saw him. He was at Buford at one time, and he goes to Effingham County, and I'm like, dude, where in the hell are you at? I stopped by one day on that coast, and I see him down there. Let me tell you something. That Hyundai plant they're building.
I was just about to say it. That's the thing, Rusty. That thing is massive. I just passed by it on the way to Tybee.
I mean, they're about to move in 4,000 workers.
Wow.
And all those high school athletes are coming to that area.
Yep.
And I remember Coach Ford looking at me 2 years ago and going, hey, don't worry about me right now, big boy.
Yeah.
Holler at me in 2 years.
Yeah.
Guess what? They went. I think they went to the Elite Eight last year. Statesboro is always a traditional, good school, always tough kid. Kind of goes through those peaks and valleys. Statesboro to me is one of those schools. If you know you're good, if you know your 7th and 8th grade middle school team's good, in 3 years you're going to be good. Mm-hmm. Those kids are going to stay. But you start talking about go down Savannah and in the private schools in that area, Benedictine and Savannah Christian and Calvary Day and all those. A lot of good football on that coast. Kid named LaDamian Guyton. I think he's #1 in America for 2027. He's an edge guy. Guys, I mean, I don't know what the hell we're doing with these kids, but if he walked in the room right now, y'all would thought he was there for the Titans OTAs this week.
Yeah. I tell you what, the state of Georgia and the guys that can play on the edge of the line of scrimmage, protecting and going to get the passer per capita. I've
Justin
always said
Houston
it.
back in my
it's
day.
It's the best
Justin
state there
Houston,
is.
boy, that's my boy.
Who was it? Knox too? Who was the other
John
guy?
Knox, man.
John Knox, dude.
And if you force me to pick, and they were in the same class, they were the year behind me, and if you force me to pick which one of them was going to be the highest paid player in defensive history in the NFL, I might have said John Knox at one point. He was that good, and we stole him and brought him over on offense for a couple specialty plays, kind of like when we were talking about the Travis Hunter conversation. That's what we did with John Knox. Him and Justin Houston both went up to Georgia together. Dynamic duo, man.
It's a hell of a state. Well, Rusty, it's always so great to talk to you, brother. I know it's been a while. Thanks so much for making time for us. Tell everybody where they can find your work. And look, I say this, and obviously not just because we're friends. If you just love football and like listening to people, even if you're not a Georgia fan, but just listening to people that understand how the game works and has experience in it, Rusty Mansell is one of the best in the business, and that's why we love having you on. But where can people find all your stuff?
I appreciate that. Obviously, I got a little branding going on here. DawsHQ,
just a little. I love it.
You know what I mean? My wife got me that for Christmas, man. I really like that big wall plaque, and I was like, I'll just put it right here.
Do it.
But It's a DawsHQ co-owner there with Jake Rowe for On3, and it's our Georgia site. But also, I'm heavily involved in the state of Georgia, and the state of Georgia is important to me. And I'm a product of high school football here. I wished I would have been an NIL prospect. I wasn't. But it's what high school football is. Kind of I feel like is changed my life. And I've been very blessed to do this. So I enjoy it every day. I'm sick, man. I've watched the YouTube. Dude, I watched a YouTube video tonight for about 30 minutes of UCLA versus Georgia in '83. And I thought, what the hell are you doing, Rusty? And but I was watching Rick Neuheisel, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to see what old boy has. Yeah. So, yeah, man, anywhere at DawsHQ On3. And obviously, one quick note, we On3 purchased Rivals.com. So we're going to mesh those brands together, and a lot of questions. I know you guys got a big audience. So the recruiting side of our industry will be under Rivals.com. All of the team sites, all of the Auburn information, all the Alabama information, all the Georgia information, your team site will stay with your On3 site there. And we're just going to make Rivals back to the recruiting brand. And I know it was a big deal for Shannon Terry, our CEO, to buy his company something back. Yep.
Man, well, we're super excited for you guys. It's obviously going really well, and couldn't happen to better people. I would say if Rusty Mansell ran for governor of Georgia, he'd win, but he's smart enough to not.
I'd move back to vote for him.
I'd vote for him.
I'm tell you something. There's 2 Panama City trips between 93 and 95 that I don't need those.
I'm right there with you.
You too?
We'll call it even, brother.
Rusty Mansell, DawsHQ, best in the business. Rusty, we love you, brother. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Having me.
All right, and thank you guys. Make sure you hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. Got some more great content coming your way. And like the chances of Georgia, not being good, we're gone. They're always good.